Welcome, ladies and gents, to Champions Way podcast, episode numero dos. This is Champions Way, helping professionals live the life of a champion in all aspects of life: professional, personal, physical, and financial. And as always, I'm joined with the one and only Dan, the Godfather Januzzi.
Stop. Glad to be here, man. Can't wait. Can't wait. We're gonna do. Hopefully, we're gonna get through it a lot of people, man. This is exciting.
Yes, indeed, very much so. And so I wanted to announce our newest sponsor to the podcast. You ready for this?
Go
So
for it.
it's a miracle drug that improves focus, it improves energy, and helps you burn fat. Do you know what it is?
What is it?
Water. Drink your water, folks, and get some sleep. All right, cool. So last week we hit on leadership and a lot of the core values surrounding leadership. So I think that today we're going to pivot off of that a little bit and kind of dive into some of the mental health struggles that can come along with being a leader, because there's a lot of pressure that people are under, and that you can have the effects of personal life impacting decisions, and on top of deadlines and everything else that comes along with it. So we're going to unpack some of it and see what good stuff comes out. This is pretty much just organic, and we're just going to kind of go on the flow with this. So
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff we touched on the last time we did this, we didn't really get into the details, and that it's because it dives more into the mental health side of it. Is just a lot of people will. How do you get structured in management, right? And so the most important thing is time management. And a lot of times you're going through so much throughout a day, depending on whether you actually work in an office as a manager or whether you're working on the road. But usually there's enough stuff getting thrown at you that's why the mental health and taking proper care of your own mental health is really the only way to thrive. And until people get that part of the management side down and fully understand it, they're going to struggle no matter how good they are with people, no matter how good they are operationally, no matter how good they are from a people standpoint. If you don't get that you need to take care of your mental health and practice things that ensure that you stay mentally healthy, you will struggle with those other aspects, even though they might be your strong points. And I know that's something early in the game for me I had no awareness to. And once I became aware of it, it seemed like everything really started to come together, because it didn't matter how good I was with people, didn't matter how good I was at figuring out how to solve problems. I spent more time worrying about everybody else's mental health and ignored mine completely early in the game. And it wasn't until I started to truly understand the mental health side of it. And we always have gotten into discussion since we first met, and really once I was grooming you into management back years and years ago, the mental health side of it is so big. And for guys like us and people like us that really want to help others, and we're involved with the life coaching side of it, we know that this might be the most important part of it. What are
right.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think I want to take a moment and kind of call out some of the kind of, because you almost call it like the pop mental health stuff, like all this popular things that people like talk about, and it's you're right to the fact that it doesn't matter how many things you have in place, and this goes back to like our Peak Six system that we have. Like, it doesn't matter what you have in place if your mind isn't on point, or at least in a capacity to process things in an objective standpoint and keep yourself moving in the right direction. You're always going to struggle. And I think there's multiple things that people talk about from this pop mental awareness, I'm going to call it, is one, affirmations. So, and not to say that it doesn't work, because I think there's a place for it, but here's the thing. And like, the most successful entrepreneurs and CEOs that I've seen that literally strictly just relied on affirmations to get them to a certain point, they end up getting to this high level of success, and it's almost like you look at them and they just feel empty, because you can affirm yourself to death to get to a certain point, but if we're not diving in on the inner workings of why we do what we do, what motivates us, what pulls us back, what stops, what's What makes us feel like we're not having momentum? What pulls us out of that where we feel in sync with everything? Is this making sense?
Yep.
So, the affirmations is one, and there's some others. It's going to come to my mind as I go through this, but uh, a big thing that a lot of people can do is, and I was just working on this with a client today, is, what are the most important emotions for you to feel, right? And you can go through and list them, and actually in detail understand what's it take to feel that emotion. Because if we value a certain emotion, actually, I'll give you an example. When I was coaching a client, one of the things he highly valued, was his number one emotion that he needs is peace. So I went through and I asked him, I said, what has to happen for you to feel peace? And we went through and listed some things. And then to his amazement, he actually realized that in order for peace to occur in his life, a lot of things had to be in his control, which then he realized and processed at how terrible that is, because it's almost impossible then to feel peace. So then, as you know, when we're in management and as a professional, we always strive for success, and we always like to influence things. And to some extent, there's a little bit of a need for control on our end. And if that's the case, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. And then we talk about like self-sacrificing last week, where you're not sacrificing yourself because you're too caught up in subconsciously meeting your own emotions. Does this make sense? Does this make sense?
100%.
Yeah, I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but yeah,
No,
I think
listen, man, I was loving where you were going with that. I had to write down something that I wanted to bring up. I like when you go off on that. And I mean, the big reason why it's so important for your own mental health to do some form of daily affirmations is because most people, when they're in management, generally, if they've made it there on merit, there's somebody that probably overanalyzes themselves a lot. And we know that overanalyzing can either be extremely good or it could be extremely detrimental. And I think when you do daily affirmations, aware of your own issues over analyzing, that can actually help you get through. Just telling
right.
yourself, hey, I've got the right mindset here. Sometimes people got to just wake up. Even remember a manager I worked with in the past, that told me he had to wake up every day and tell himself in the mirror that he was good at what he does, and that, just simply saying, hey, you're good at what you do, man. You're going to go out and make a lot of money today and be extremely successful. If that's what somebody needs to do, then you got to do it. But like you were going off in this affirmations and everything you're discussing while you were talking about that stuff, it really comes down to everybody that does things at a high level will tend to overanalyze themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
really you have to control that overanalyzing and be able to take that, narrow it down and go, now this is my decision, or this is what I'm going to do with that. Overanalyzing can be extremely good when it's structured and you have positive daily affirmations to the point where you're confident. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is overanalyzing can be very bad for you if you're not confident enough in what you're doing because of, whatever you have to do to become, confident every day. Confidence is
Yeah.
key to being in management.
Yeah, I think affirmations definitely have their place. I think in my experience and what I've seen is it's if the foundation of underneath isn't there, like affirmations can make you a multi-million-dollar business. I haven't done it, but I've seen it done. So I'm not going to say that it doesn't work. But each time I've looked at those CEOs, there's just there's a sense of emptiness, and then once they get to the goal, it's like then trying to find yourself. I think affirmations. I think once you have an understanding inner working without having to go on some sabbatical, once you understand a lot of this stuff, affirmations I think can become even more powerful. Affirmations alone are still good, but I don't think they're the answer, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're not completely. I just think it's definitely one of those things that if you can control it, and
Yeah.
that's what gets you going, then that's key. But to stick with, this whole mental health aspect, especially with doing life coaching. I mean, I think it would be key for you to talk about and have us discuss common denominators that we have with people that are looking for life coaching and looking for a boost,
Yeah.
because 90% of the time mental health is once we get into those one-on-one conversations and we're diving into, okay, what is the root of the issue, it always stems back to proper mental health.
Yeah.
whatever's attacking them in their lives, whatever's attacking them, whether it's work related, family related, relationship related. It all comes down to, and I feel like the 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 best results we've gotten and the best testimonials we've gotten all have to do with helping them straighten out their mental health and gain that balance.
Yeah. I mean, it's like just like in management, you can know what you need to do from the X's and O's. You know what conversations you should have, what KPIs should be at, and how to execute that. And if the right company gives you support, but it's like it's just like losing weight, right? People know they're supposed to work out, they know they're supposed to eat well, but doing consistently is a different ballgame. So the mental health component of it, being able to dive in on that is and have that in tune for yourself. And you mentioned like a lot of the affirmations, something that you can control, which I think is super important. I think a lot of us do understand that, especially at a high level, that we need to focus on what we can control, because it's very easy to get sidewise, off on a tangent. When you talk about overanalyzing, we can end up overanalyzing ourselves, right, in the wrong direction, and then we lose the sense of control that we have to steer things back to where they need to be, to where we want them to go, right?
100%, man. That whole, you bringing that up, controlling what you can control and not allowing what's out of your span of control to eat away at you is very hard for people that have that high level mindset where,
Yeah.
we get put in place to go in. And as managers, I look at it as things as, yes, you're managing people, but you're there to manage a situation, fix problems, resolve issues. You're trying to analyze every single aspect of whatever business you're running or whatever company you go to work for. And I always found it very difficult working for other people, even if they were high level, whatever position I was in, I always felt I could handle it properly and quickly, and I would start analyzing problems that were outside of my span of control. And I also struggled with that early on in my career, and found that even becoming aware of it, I still struggled with it deeper into my career because when you're someone like us, the mindset is if there's a way to fix something to make everything more efficient, make everything work better, you want to be able to fix it. But if that's not in your position and that's not in your span of control, you have to be able to take a step back and say, you know what? Let me do my job the best. Let me do what I was hired here for or what I'm paid to do at the best. And leave that to someone else because that's not within my, it's technically not in my control. So I know that was going off a little bit on that, but that's just when you brought that up, that hits home for me because I think that's one of the hardest things to do, especially when you manage within other managers in a specific business. This isn't for people that run their own company. This isn't for the person that's at the very top because you may not be answering to anybody. But when you're within a set group of management and you have other people that are on your same level, that you're questioning how did they even get into their position, right? You can start to
Mhm.
spend your days going, man, my job's frustrating because this guy that's at the same level as me or this guy that's in a similar position as me, why are they doing such a bad job? Why are they struggling? Why are they not leading the people? Why are they not doing this? And man, you can really screw yourself up like that. And I think that ties back into mental health because for me, as I've matured in life and matured in my management experience, it's a lot easier to just sit back and control what is in my span of control, what I'm paid to do or what I
Yeah.
was hired to do or what my job is, and not worry about what other people's jobs are that are on the same playing field as me. Only worry about the people that I have to work with every day.
Yeah. And I think the point that comes to mind too in a lot of this, and what you're talking about, there's actually two things. First is, and you and I can relate to this, is things not getting done fast enough,
Yeah.
right? And when you have people above you or just things around you that aren't getting done as quick as you want, it's really easy to get down into that rut of like, if you're like pedal to the metal the whole way through, but it's not happening. You find
Yeah.
yourself with those negative thoughts, dude.
Dude, I think that's one of the biggest things that we had similarly in common and
Yeah.
probably figured out about each other real quick, back when we met is, whatever is, maybe that's the difference between 5%er mindset and 1%er mindset. The 5% still have patience to wait to get something done. And that, you get into that mindset where it's like, this needs to be fixed and it needs to be fixed now. Unless
Yeah.
you can give me some solid reason why this cannot be fixed right now, then let's just do it right now. And we go back to always talking about patience. Patience being a virtue, but patience is part of mental health too, because you could drive yourself nuts knowing when something's done that everything's going to be fixed,
Yeah.
and it's just not happening fast enough. I want
Yeah.
to fix every problem everywhere I go immediately, and it's taken a lot of years and a lot of a lot of deep meditation and teaching myself discipline to be patient.
Yeah, for sure. And I think on that note, which actually kind of segues me to my second point, which is, we get caught up in a lot of the outcomes, right? When people aren't getting things done fast enough for us, or we start negatively overanalyzing different situations. A good thing to always come back to, and this is what I teach, is process over outcome. You want to fall in love with the process. You want to fall in love with the day to day, even though it's monotonous. But I had a business coach that was hit this nail on the head. It's like the boring shit is what's going to set you apart from everybody else. So if you fall in love with the process and stay away from even though the outcome is important, right? When they talk about goal setting, they talk about, what is it? SMART. It's like strategic, measurable, attainable, relatable. I don't know, whatever the acronym is.
Yep.
There's like 5 different versions of it. But the bottom line is, there's a measure, there's an output, like there's a goal you're looking for, and then you get your job judged on that output. It's very easy to get caught up in things that you can't control that can impact the outcome, right? I'll use a sport example, right? We'll go baseball. Batter steps in a batter's box. Batter has no control over what the pitcher's going to throw, right? All he can focus on is what he can do in the box, how he has himself set, if he has a routine, right? Is he going through everything? Is he practicing things on the off days? But those are the things that he can control. And in that aspect, it's falling in love with the process, but instead of getting caught with the outcome goal of, I need to bat 250, 300, whatever it may be. Because then if that happens, things outside of your control are going to impact your outcome, and that can negatively impact your mindset and then therefore your performance. So if we stay zoned in on the process, what the things that we can control, the controllables, and then judge ourselves on how well we're executing on that over time, the outcome's going to be hit.
And I honestly think a lot of people struggle with what you're talking about. The other side of that, they have a problem with the process. They just want to get the end result. Just like when people see a star athlete, a lot of people take for granted nobody's watching how they get to that point.
Yeah.
And so you got kids trying to mimic what they're doing without any structure and without discipline and structure, and falling in love with the process. You have no chance to ever become like those people. And we already know the percentages that have the actual athletic God-given ability to be able to get to that level, but you still need, we can go back and look at sports as an analogy and say, look how many guys were so highly touted out of high school, and then you never heard of them again.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the guys that didn't have the right people around them and never got the right structure to fall in love with the process of being disciplined, to be good at whatever you're going to do, whether it's sports, work, life, being a parent, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to fall in love with the process.
Yeah, and I think even like as men, like we're almost hardwired to be able to dial in on stuff and execute that for a long period of time. I think as a society, I mean, we'll start going off on tangents here, but there's that instant gratification where you go on your phone. Like, I think a good thing for people to do today is just be bored. Just be bored for 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. Just shut your phone off, shut your TV off, and just sit there. No, like dead silence for 5 or 10 minutes, and just watch the anxiety creep up. Because whenever that happens, right, we're on our phones, and that's the immediate distraction. Then we lose sight of what discipline actually feels like. And even in the workplace, when it's so easy to get, again, bogged down with overanalyzing things that we can't control, things not getting done fast enough, and all of this going array, or employees not doing, your staff not doing what they should be doing, no matter how much you feel you've communicated it correctly, like all of these things will impact it. I just literally just word blank my brain fart what I was just gonna hit. Oh my gosh. Anyways, if it comes back to me, I'll blurt it out. But anyways, and I'll probably listen back to this and I know what it's going to say. But
The adrafinil working.
Oh no, that's what it was. That's we go. I got it. That's why I went so off on a tangent. I'm down the side road and couldn't come back. I got lost. Um, but as men, so from the discipline standpoint, when we're in the office where all of this is happening, and we tend to reach for that. What's that feel good? That instant moment feel good thing, right? And then we lose with discipline, which is really we're not getting rewarded for a long period of time, and to be able to continually do that but fall in love with that process. And I think like the one thing that people can do is even if you just do something once where it takes an extended period of time to meet that goal, just that first time, you do get like the sense of a sense of gratitude of long-term hard work is far more rewarding and fulfilling
Yep.
than jumping on your phone and checking out the latest, Instagram or Facebook post or whatever, the world's talking about aliens landing or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it's that sense of fulfillment will be far more rewarding than any of that.
Absolutely, man. And I'll tell you that just even talking about being on your phones too much. I mean, that's why I think it's a great part of our program that, we get people to commit to getting off their phones for a couple weeks,
Yeah.
staying off social media platforms for a couple weeks. It's inevitable because it's all part of our lives at this point.
Yeah.
But controlling the amount of time spent on there and really focusing on everything comes down to discipline. No matter what we're going to end up talking about week in, week out on this show, everything's going to be relatable back to having disciplines.
Yeah.
And discipline is probably the one thing lacking in most people's lives at this point, and probably why life coaching and that entire industry is blown up over the last 10 years is probably correlated to the social media and technology generation. Because back before, when I was younger and we didn't have phones, you didn't have any of this. Like, who was going out there? I don't even know if there was life coaches back then. I'm sure there were, but they were few and far between, and they were probably only for the elite because most regular people just weren't even thinking about that because they weren't drowning themselves out every day in things and spending time doing things that are going to create mental health issues. I was just watching a TV commercial last night. I don't even know if it was on a regular show because I don't watch too much TV, but it was actually a show about or a commercial about children being bullied through social media. Shut
Mm.
it off. Like there was real bullying back when I went to school. You know what I mean? There was real bullying. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is like you got people getting upset over whether they post something and they don't get a million likes. I mean, get your kids off of social media. Like
Yeah.
it's an easy fix. Just separate yourself for a while from social media and learn how to control it. But it's sad that we're at that point where now there's literally TV. It's like going to a casino and there's signs all up about if you have a gambling problem. No shit, you guys put it here, so we're going to have a gambling problem. No
That's the
shit,
PR
you put
campaign.
social media out there, people are going to have a problem. And this isn't even funny. You got kids committing suicide over
Yeah.
not getting enough likes. Take your kids out of the phones, and honestly, adults have the same problem. We just don't, we're probably not talking about it as much, but adults are struggling from the same thing. They had that commercial for children, and really, it should be most adults should be thinking about that because it's amazing to me when I do flip on social media and go through there how many people are just posting. I can tell from one post what's going on in all these people's lives because they're just putting so much information out. I don't even think people are analyzing it, and it goes back to mental health. Get off social media, fix yourself mental health wise, and learn how to control it.
Yeah. I had when I was one of my clients said that he was actually finishing his program, and he said that was actually the most valuable thing that we did with him. Was he was like I went from I didn't realize how much I wasn't talking to my kids. He literally said this to me, and he was like, as soon as I had to ditch this thing, he was like, it was amazing. He's like, my relationship with my kids is just that much better. It's it is, and I think I don't want to get too much down this rabbit hole of stuff, but it in a world where actually, I mean, it is really applicable because when you're managing a team of people that I think what is it too? Like I read a report. It was on Inc. magazine. Only 12% of employees, 12%, actually contribute to more than 6 hours of task work a day.
That makes sense. That makes
Why?
sense.
Why do you think it is? Because A, they're not motivated, and B, they're not engaged. And this could come from this, right? If your employees aren't performing, it's you as a leader, it's your fault, right? So and this then spills up towards management. How are you doing everything in your life? How's how are your leadership capabilities? But being able to acknowledge this is like 12% partial leadership fault. But then you got people that, yeah, they get bored and they just start scrolling on their phone. And I think we're all guilty of it too. You know,
Yeah, it's
unfortunately.
just the amount of time you're guilty of, But I
Yeah.
guarantee that if they were tracking people during the day, how much time they spend on social media when they're actually at work, getting paid to do a job, it's probably absurd, And I laugh thinking about back even early on when we worked together at, one of the spots we worked at together. You weren't allowed to have your phone out on the sales floor. Imagine those days. You
Yeah.
know, you can't have your phone out on the sales floor, and now nobody goes within 2 feet. Their phone is within them somewhere near their body at all times of day, or people lose their minds. It's like you just can't function without the phone. And I'll tell you, as a practice for just what we help people do, it's amazing. It's such a good feeling to just put your phone down and then like have an hour or two go by and be like, wait, where did I leave my phone? It's an
Mm-hmm.
actual good feeling, because it points, and I've struggled with it at points in my life, especially getting laid up with surgeries and stuff. That phone's not more than like an arm length away from you. You got to
Yep.
grab it. Oh, you got to look at something. You got to see what's going on. And
Yeah.
it's really a form of discipline to be able to take control of that.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's hard. It's addicting. They're addicting devices because when you detox from it, it's like a drug. Like when I did mine, I was like checking the weather like every 5 minutes. you know, so it's hard. But yeah, to kind of circle things back. So from the mental health standpoint of leadership, I think to kind of summarize everything we've covered is obviously the controllables, right? Focusing on what you can control, not overanalyzing and getting down a rabbit hole that's out of your control. Falling in love with the process. What else we hit on so far?
I mean, you were rolling with it. Just keep rolling.
I think
Controlling that overanalyzing. The importance of and we really didn't get into that. We haven't gotten into routines yet, but
yeah.
in proper routines that are actually scientifically studied. But everybody that's in management should have a morning routine. Everybody should have a nighttime routine to get themselves prepared for bed properly, to get mentally ready for the day. And I know I'm going off a little bit, but you have me thinking about it now. And
Go for it.
everybody needs to have that morning routine, that the going to bed routine and that morning routine, because that is a discipline to create structure so that you are mentally going to bed, preparing yourself for the next day, waking up, putting yourself in the right mindset, whether it's, a couple minutes of stretching every day, a couple minutes of meditation, whether some people get up real early and go work out before their day starts. But those are two of the most important disciplines I found for myself and when I was coaching people, that if you can get somebody into that specific mental nighttime routine and specific thing they do in their morning, they're going to be good 95% of the time. Because when you do those two things, you're going to bed properly, you're putting your mind in the right state to sleep and getting the right amount of sleep. And you and I both know there's enough studies out there. I mean, I used to do it when I played sports. When you think about what you're going to do, right? All the greats have talked about this in sports. When you're constantly mentally projecting, here's what I'm going to do when the clock's running out and I got the ball in my hands. Here's what I'm going to do in this situation. When it actually happens, it's somehow it just comes to you and you're prepared to do it. And the
Yeah.
same goes for everybody getting up to grind to go be a manager, whether it's in whatever line of work they do. You're going to be a CEO, you're going to be a boss. You have to get yourself mentally prepared, project for things to go wrong and how you're going to handle them, project for different situations to come up, and then wake up right back in that mode of mentally preparing yourself for the day to handle stresses, to handle curveballs, to handle different things that are going to come at you, and still be able to be good at what you do, be successful at what you do, and feel good. And I think that ties into mental health, because when you're prepared and you do those disciplines properly, you won't have really mental health issues. Even when something bad comes at you, you're already mentally prepared on how to handle it, and you just kind of move right through it. And everybody that you know really looks at sports stars as role models, like, wow, how does Michael Jordan handle that pressure? Kobe Bryant handle that pressure when the clock's running out and they've already played the entire game. They're exhausted physically, they're exhausted mentally. how does somebody get ready to take that game-winning shot with all the pressure of 20,000 fans screaming, them knowing everybody's watching it on TV, and they've got that ball in your, how do you do it? It's literally thinking about that moment every single night when you go to bed, every single time you're sitting there and ready to take a nap, every morning when you wake up and you're getting yourself ready. And the same goes for everybody that has to go out and do any kind of job. You have to prepare mentally the same way. So,
Yeah.
sorry I went off on that tangent, but I want to get
No,
your
no,
thoughts on that.
I think it's an important point because the flip side of it is I think it's doing something that would from a mental health standpoint, you want to put yourself at ease going to bed, right? Because you don't want to be like jacked up too much. So like,
No.
physiologically for those that are listening, the way this works is if your cortisol is too high at night, your melatonin, which is your sleep inducing hormone, can't rise because your body's in this fight or flight state. So if therefore you're not going to sleep well, and you're not going to have a good day the next day. Chances are. So you want to be able to put yourself in a good state that's going to be able to calm yourself so that your cortisol levels go down, and then your melatonin can come up, and then you feel better. On that note, too, because what ends up happening is many of us get so overworked that you end up with what I've heard is termed as productivity paranoia, which is you're up at night thinking about everything for the next day, the should have, could have, would have from this day, and maybe before, right? You're future oriented, you're past oriented, but you're not present. And then as a result, you're stressed and then you're not falling asleep. So I think the right routine needs to be able to get you down to help you calm down, lower that cortisol, whether that be breathing techniques. With some people, I've encouraged meditation for some people too, but it's definitely a good bed routine and something that's going to be good to get the shit rolling for you in the morning is definitely super important.
Absolutely. I think of more of what I was talking about really affects people when they do have the right mindset. That mental preparation is what's going to get you ahead. But for people that you're coaching, they already are having issues with that. So what you're talking about is the proper way to do it. Most people can't handle processing stressful situations in their mind and preparing themselves for it. But once you've gone through a coaching program, once you learn how to control that mental health, it's easier. It's easier to be able to think about necessarily different situations that to some may seem stressful, but to certain people like us, it's more like this is what a coach's mindset does. You think about different scenarios, you fix the problems in your mind, and that's how you prepare yourself.
I don't. You're not wrong though, because like it depends on the person because it depends what makes you tick, right? And this comes back to what I was talking about earlier: is what are the most important emotions for you to feel? Because if visualizing yourself the next day and what's coming up and all of that helps you calm down, then that work. I mean, it depends on the individual. And I've experienced this when I'm working with people. Is it depends on what your personality is, depends what you like to do, what's going to work for you, right? It's not amping yourself up, but prepping yourself for the next day and reviewing what this past day is. If that's what works, and that's what works. There's no one solution. You and I know this, right? There's no one solution.
Yep.
It's every person's different, and this is because we all have different life experiences, we all have different paths, we all have different beliefs, we all have different thought patterns, and all of these things are ingrained in how we wire on a day to day. So what works for you? You know what I mean? So it's finding that one thing and then just tripling down on that, because then that's just going to bring more success for you across the board.
And I know you're going to cut and chop all this up. So I think this is more of like me and you having this conversation back and forth. That's how I'm imagining it. The one common denominator with all the CEOs, owners of companies, presidents, the highest level people that I've met, the highest level athletes I've gotten to sit and talk to and have a conversation with, that common denominator is they thrive on mental preparedness, visualizing that what to 99% of people would create anxiety and loss of sleep, that 1% thrives on. That's actually what makes them feel calmer, is knowing that the more they mentally prepare for stuff, the better they're going to handle those situations. And that is the one thing I have always taken from me. And whenever I've had opportunities to sit and talk to owners of companies, CEOs, elite athletes, highly successful people in whatever field they are, that 1% of people thrives on what would cause most people anxiety and stress. And I guess that was the point I was trying to get across.
Yeah, that was a
It's
good point.
definitely not for most. The way we coach, that's the right way to do things, because you're trying to ease yourself so that at night you're getting that proper rest, because that's one of the things that we teach everybody is how the proper rest sets yourself up for that next day. So I went off on a tangent on really what was more of a one percenter conversation.
Well, no,
That
that's the thing though. Is like if I think for some people it does help them to in this and then, you get into it in 2 seconds, but if that's what makes you tick, if that's what helps calm your thoughts, if that's what helps you feel prepared, then fuck it, do it. And then you discover something new about yourself. It doesn't. I think the bottom line is, coming back to our original sponsor, water, um, and sleep. um, you know, Sleep especially. Whatever you need to do that will help improve the quality of your sleep is going to improve your performance the next day and your patience and handling with everybody else. And you're not going to negatively overanalyze things. You'll be able to focus on better, stay focus on the controllables and, across the board. So, it's good points. There's meditation for some, but maybe it's just like I guess you said, like visualizing. There's so many different options out there. So, but that's all good points. I think the other thing too I wanted to hit on was the impact of our personal lives in our professional work and how much that impacts people, right? You and I can both attest to that, right? Because here's all the things you can do at work, right? Here's all the things, here's all the strategies, here's all the tactics, here's the pie charts and the KPIs and what the studies say, this, and this. But there's always the human element in your life outside of work, right? What are you doing? How are you treating your body? We talked about kind of how you're treating your mind before you go to bed and after you wake up, but like outside of work, what are you doing? Right?
Shoot, man. I mean, you just opened up a wormhole there. I mean, are you kidding me? You could have. I mean, listen, I've lived it. You could have the best work life ever,
Yep.
and be in total control of what 12 hours of your day looks like, and then come home and because you're not structured at home and don't have the proper support system and don't have that. I mean, we've experienced that. Yeah, I mean that you could be in a terrible mental health space. You could be great at work and then come home and be in a terrible overall mental health space because your home life is. But that goes back to another conversation where we'll have to get into peak six because all this stuff ties together.
Yeah.
You can't have without having your foundational stuff. You're never going to achieve that overall goal mentally because you're always going to feel like something's missing. Man, I could be the most successful guy at work, but man, my home life sucks. My family life sucks. Well, then you're not fulfilled. And people at some point, you got to have some spirituality and faith in whatever you're going to be, whatever your belief system is. But without that, you will feel empty inside. You could
Yeah.
have a great, you could be great in part of your life, but it's all about that bringing everything together synergistically to work together.
Yeah. And I think this comes back to my original point, which is like, what are the most important emotions for you to feel, right? Because if your home life is dog shit, but you can do really well at work. Well, that's cool. You can pretty much for the most part control your performance at work. Or you can influence it more because everything there tends to be more order than when you get outside of your personal life. Things tend to get a little gray, and then it's can you really perform at your optimal self if you're not experiencing the emotions that actually help you thrive? Because you and I can attest if you're not feeling what you want to feel on a daily basis, or at least on a fairly regular basis, man, it don't matter. Like you can bottle shit up. Guys were good at that. Fucking bottle shit up and compartmentalize it, put it away, and not address it for another 30 days or sometimes more, right? But
Yeah, till
it
it
does
goes off like a hand grenade.
right. But it doesn't matter though. If you're still not going to be able to work at your optimal capacity and have your optimal output if everything else outside of work is fucking chaos, right?
Amen.
You know.
Amen.
So, and this goes back to our mini conversation before this, which is don't make mental health virtue signaling, which is where you're talking about it, and just to make yourself feel good, it's actually doing shit about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to practice what you preach, man. You got to, and even if you get that idea in your mind, like that person that's been struggling and gets that idea in their mind, I want to change. You got to go all in. You got to
Yeah.
go on. You got to practice what you preach. You can't have a fear of like just jumping in and doing something.
Yeah. Burn the boats, baby. Burn the
Yep.
boats. Cool. I don't know if there's anything else. I think we hit some good stuff. So, to kind of summarize, experience, important emotions, control what you can control from a work standpoint, right? Don't overanalyze things
Yep.
in a negative light, which, to help that will be our primary sponsor, water and sleep. And visualization, you can do before bed. Anything that's going to calm you down, help bring down those cortisol levels. Good morning routines and habit routines you get yourself in the good space, and those are some good things that you can do. There's some more, but topic for another conversation. But I think those are some good. Anything else you want to add?
No, man, I think we got a lot of good stuff here. I mean, we could go off on multiple of these topics and sit on this thing, for another 3-4 hours. I mean, you know that. So, I mean, the main thing is really really trying to focus on a topic, be able to hit on some points, and hopefully we something we discussed for everybody listening out there or watching it. Hopefully something we hit on something that uh, you can relate to, and maybe benefits you or reinforces something with you. Just to make your work life a little better, your home life a little better. Uh, maybe just even discussing discipline. Because we'll have a lot of discussions about discipline. Because everything we're going to discuss on every episode is going to come down to discipline. So,
That's what
hopefully somebody benefits from it.
yeah, that's what you need for success. Cool. All right. Well, ladies and gents, that was episode 2. Thanks for joining us, and we'll chat with you guys next week. Peace.